Hey guys, I've really been looking forward to this one because tonight we get to talk about Irene Belserion, the Scarlet Despair, the creator of dragon slaying magic, a high enchantress, the strongest female in all of Alvarez. This woman has so many different titles, and we're just going to stop this right here. I'm going to chuck a picture up on screen, and we're just going to admire, not in a gooning way, mind you, but just in a sheer aesthetic character design, how cool this character is and how much they were cooking when they came up with Irene Balserion's design. Despite being the mother of Erza, there is enough of a difference where she has her whole own unique identity, and I think she's one of the coolest looking characters in the entire series. And before we started gushing about her power, we needed to just go over that first. Now, in these videos, I like to talk about speed and strength and durability and hacks abilities, all the usual stuff. But tonight we're also going to go over just some of the more miscellaneous feats that this woman has that she shows in the show. The first one being she holds and keeps her child in her womb as in her human form for 3 years with the power of her enchantments. Now, if you thought Porcus D. Rouge in One Piece doing this with Ace, which I believe it was for like 13 months, was impressive, then this is next level. She keeps Erza in her human body for 3 years while she is being tortured and humiliated from the kingdom that she's in, and the lead culprit of this being her own husband. Now, when it says in the anime and in the manga she was being humiliated and stuff like that, I'll let everyone run with how you want to determine what was happening there, but she was certainly being physically tortured, and during all this, being restrained, she had the fortitude and the resilience enough to keep a baby in her own body without giving birth to it, which is a crazy, crazy feat that she does here. She then continues to hold that baby inside of her for another 400 years as a dragon. Because she is a dragon, though, we're going to kind of, that's not as impressive as when she's doing it in her human form. Even though she's starting to take on the not philosophy, Jesus Jack, the physiology of a dragon. And that's another thing we need to talk about because this gets overlooked a lot. She is a goddamn dragon. We know what dragons can do in this series and how powerful they are. If you guys remember, back in the Grand Magic Games, just one of these dragons could not be scratched or hurt by all the most powerful guilds in Fiore. Now, it wasn't the 10 wizard saints themselves fighting them, but every guild in Fiore, all their members, even their S-class ranked mages, could not even hope to defeat one of these things. Now, Irene Belserion, the way she's played up and just the narrative implication of it all, she is an incredibly powerful dragon, meaning even without going into any sort of scaling, she's quite possibly stronger than just all of the Fiore guilds put together, at least at that time in the story of Fairy Tail, which is a crazy feat in and of itself. But of course, we have characters that grow and they get stronger. So where would Irene really kind of stand in the power scaling threshold of Fairy Tail? And this is why I'm really excited to talk about her, because she is just such an interesting character with really cool abilities that are so unique to herself in this entire world, where she's an enchantress. She uses her power to kind of transfigure and transmutate objects and people around her by using her own magic to influence and manipulate her surroundings, which I think is shown in really, really cool fashion. Now, the primarily big chunk of this video is going to be going over her specific abilities and just how powerful they are. But we are just going to touch on her speed, her strength, and her durability. Now, if you've watched my channel at all, we always start with speed. Speed's the most contentious topic. We're going to go with it. I'm sick of repeating myself. I like to power scale speed in my own unique way of showing feats on screen with narrative, so we're not kind of losing the thread of what the narrative is trying to tell us. Now, Fairy Tail is a very weird show when it comes to ranking speed. The best that you can say are these top tier characters like Natsu, Irene, Erza, Zeref, Acnologia, August. People like this, I would simply put in that sub relativistic speeds. The reason I say this is because in one like the fourth arc in Fairy Tail, fourth or fifth arc, Natsu is showing that he can dodge and get out of the way of Loxus, who is being able to turn into lightning. If he's dodging lightning that early in the show and he gets dozens of times stronger, I'm fine saying that he is in sub relativistic speeds. You could say that he is just the top tier characters in Fairy Tail are just relativistic or even light speed. There are like you could take some scaling from Makarov versing the Master of Phantom Lord Josei, firing off light beams there, Josei being able to dodge and deflect them, and then characters being much stronger than Josei that these characters are light speed. There's not enough evidence though for me truly to say that with my, whole chest. And because speed is never really brought up really again and have specific kind of feats that we can say without a doubt is, X, Y, and Z. I'm just going to say sub relativistic. If you want to highball them and put them in relativistic, I completely understand. But for right now, just to not rattle any feathers, we're going to call her sub relativistic levels of speed. What the best showcase of her speed is, and what would make more sense in the fairy tale world to get an idea of where she's sitting, is that she's fast enough to contend with Acnologia, at least temporarily, and even get a drop on him. Not saying that she's faster than Acnologia, but she is in similar levels of speed as him. This is a character that can blitz God Serena, the strongest wizard in all of Ishgar, and one of the more kind of mid to higher ranking members of the Spriggan 12, meaning that her speed is really, really crazy, and that there's really no one in the show that can just like outspeed her. If there are faster characters, they're relative enough that Irene can keep up with them. Her other impressive showcase is her fight with Erza and being able to keep up to speed with Erza. If we wanted to take speed scaling calcs out of it, those are the two feats that we would use to show that she isn't getting outpaced by anyone in the show. So we can automatically know that her getting outsped and just blitzed by another person in Fairy Tail is not going to be happening. Now, let's go over durability first because we're going to mix her strength in with her abilities. Her durability is very impressive because she survives numerous attacks from Urza, but the truly impressive thing about it is that she describes her dragon scales as adamantine armor like level scales that cannot be penetrated by Urza. And this could be true, especially Urza being able to hurt her in any meaningful way, because the only time Erza ever hurts her is when Wendy is enchanting Erza's blades with dragon slaying magic. Now, in all of the show, we never really see dragons being hurt with any other form of magic. I would like to use my own headcanon where if the magic is strong enough, it will still hurt a dragon. For instance, I always use this example, but say we brought Goku into this world. If he was able to, like, fire a solar system busting Kamehameha at Irene, it would or any dragon, it would probably injure them. But in that case, kill them. But in terms of just the abilities that we see, nothing other than dragon slaying magic seems to work in any meaningful way against a dragon, implying that Irene just has kind of absolute durability against anyone in the show that isn't a dragon slayer or specifically Zeref, because there's no one in the series that can just has so much more magical power than her that they can just overwhelm her defenses with like a magic blast alone. We know this because Mira Jane, an S-class mage who isn't at Urza's level anymore, but is chalked up to kind of be a rival of hers, is just utterly in awe and terrified of Irene's magical power, where she mentions and states that it defies all sense of common reason, which is a crazy kind of flex and statement in Irene's favor here. So if she's not being taken out by any kind of person that has more magic than her, Zeref might be able to get around it because of his death manipulation and his own unique hacks abilities. But other than him, if you're not a Dragon Slayer, you're not really injuring Irene if we're talking about durability in her own story and narrative. Now, she takes attacks from Urza head on. Urza, you might be asking, well, Jack, we can get Irene's durability from Urza's attack power. Urza's greatest attack power feat is what she does in her fight with Irene to destroy the meteorite that Irene brings down. Yes, she goes Madara Uchiha on her own daughter's ass here, or Fujitora from One Piece, or Grammy from Bleach. She is, she's in that class, that elite club of meteor summoners. And Urza is able to destroy this meteorite. Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. This meteorite feat is very nebulous in how powerful it is. I am going to say, though, that it is at minimum small country level feat. We'll go into this more when we discuss her abilities, but the fact that she already has a spell that manipulates the entire geography and topology of an entire small country would imply to me that her ultimate attack would be at least that powerful. So even if we lowball it and say that it's a small country level attack, Urza is able to destroy that while being injured, and then Irene was then facing that very Urza before that, implying that Irene's durability is a small country level. You could say, if you wanted to lowball it, that it is large island level durability. Either way, it's incredibly insane. Other than the very top tier characters, you could probably count them on one hand, the people that could actually hurt Irene. Now, that's her durability, her attacking power, and her abilities. This is the juicy part, the meat and potatoes of this video. Let's go over her just brute strength first. We're going to use Erza again as the example because she's able to clash with Urza and she's able to really, really injure Urza. In her dragon form, she's able to break Urza's arm and leg and just completely, like probably tons of other bones in her body as well. And Urza's durability is quite possibly the most crazy scaling category or class that you could take Urza's character in because it gets outrageous. Before the time skip, she is mid island level durability, if not high or large island level durability. We know this because she takes all the power of Tenro Island when she's fighting Azuma from Grimoire Heart. She takes that attack twice and still has enough stamina and durability to go and then face Hades, meaning that she's gotten like a much stronger since that time, implying that if she was at mid to large island level attack durability there, that she would be at small to mid country level durability, if not higher, with insane amount of stamina. And Irene was just, she was manhandled. Like, Urza would not have beat Irene without Wendy's help. In fact, they don't even beat Irene. The Scarlet Despair really. She's having a good day in Fairy Tail because she doesn't get beat by anyone. She kind of stalemates with Acnologia, and she wouldn't have gone on to win that fight. Let's all be real there. She wouldn't have won that. But she doesn't get defeated by anyone in the series. She, to not get myself in trouble here, she, handles matters herself. That's how her story journey ends. So I would say her attacking power just through physical strength is low to mid country level, which is, getting crazy to think of. But if you look at Urza's durability, that is like, there's enough information, there's enough facts there to kind of back that up. But her abilities, these are the things that make her such a great character. Because she's pulling some Harry Potter level Hogwarts sorcery here. She can transfigure people into animals. We see this by how she transfigures the Princess of Fiore into a mouse, where she kind of torments the king of, will you still love your daughter? Now, if you're asking, well, where does that go? She can't obviously transfigure like someone like Urza of like her level of power into an animal, and you're right. But what she does do to people is that she enchants an entire army to go into what she calls a berserk state, where she kind of transforms them into a more monstrous versions of themselves and really enhances their power, and then they overwhelm the good guys. Meaning, if she's doing this to an entire army, she's inflicting it positively, but we could see her like, there's no, if she can enchant this entire army to be berserkers, she could enchant that entire army to be an army of rats, meaning that she's just in that ability alone, she can do it at an anti-army level scale. Now, like we said, it's not going to work on people like the main cast, where their magical power is probably great enough where that type of ability won't work on them. But the fact that she can just take out average grunts with just her base abilities of just transferring an army into a series of animals is crazy. She has Zeref level abilities of kind of living magic. It's not classified as living magic, but it's similar. I kind of consider it pseudo living magic, where she can literally implant physical human form and human sentient personalities on two blades. So she kind of gets blade swords and creates new life out of them in a way, where she's able to enchant not only a personality but an existence into them. Now, and these are people powerful enough to give Mirror Jane a run for her money. So they're sitting at that S class tier of strength that Irene can kind of just create willy nilly. Now, she can also change the entire topography and seasons of a large mountain zoned area where they're in this very wintry, cold climate, and she turns it into a summery spring environment. Now, she's making flowers bloom. She's not showing, it's not a very high level of attack power, but it shows the sheer scale that she can kind of impact the world around her and do so effortlessly. Now, she has a fight with Acnologia, where we've kind of mentioned when we were speaking about her previous feats. And this is very impressive because she's able to push Acnologia back, not properly injure him. She's able to keep up pace with Acnologia, and Acnologia himself even compliments her of like, you're a very, very impressive kind of witch here. Like you're someone special. I don't know if he does that to anyone in the entire series. So that just hypes up Irene even further than what we already had like assumed of her. So she gets hyped up by probably the strongest character in the show, with the potential exception of Natsu and Zeref. So she's got that going for her, and then she does this little thing where it's no big deal. But she creates a new type of magic that Acnologia has never seen. Zeref is kind of shocked that she would have the audacity to use it, and she calls it Universe 1, where she alternates the entire geography of. I hesitate to even call it like alternate geography, but she transforms the land of a small to mid country level area and reduces it in size to just 5% of its original overall mass, which is completely crazy that she's able to accomplish something like that, and is definitely a feat in the AP direction, because we can already see the type of damage that she can do with a full size kind of country, let alone something that she's already reduced down, implying that she could potentially use this ability on a continent scale, if not in her first initial burst of power, but in like, why couldn't she just, say there was a continent and she couldn't transform the entire continent, if she could only transform half of it, why couldn't she then just go and transform the other half of it? Because we see her after using it. She's not like winded or gassed or need to rest for like a couple of hours. Like she's good to go. She's ready to keep casting. In the show, she ends up using she has eye magic where she can summon massive eyes up into the sky that give her kind of omniscience I always get that word confused with omnipotence, of kind of being able to see everything in that field of vision of what everyone's doing. Because her Universe 1 power is so powerful that she herself gets affected by it, where she gets transferred and teleported to a complete another area, while Zeref gets transferred to Mavis, where Fairy Heart is. Acnologia gets transferred and teleported down to the bottom of the ocean, or into the ocean, sorry, and she's able to do that with seemingly no limit. It all seems to be. One of her other really great abilities, it's very hard to truly kind of scale how impressive it is, but she is able to detach Fairy Heart from Mavis. Now, it takes her time to do this. She can't just kind of whip out her staff and do it like, getting a fish from a river. She needs to spend time working on it, but I don't understand how she can kind of detach. What would we even call it? How would we describe the fairy heart? It's an item slash concept, kind of an item slash concept of infinity. Irene can detach that from the living person and put that into Zeref, which is just I'm not even going to begin to think I'm big brained enough to kind of determine exactly how impressive that is. But from my little noodle brain, that is very impressive to me that she can kind of mess with concepts of infinity. This isn't me being like she's infinitely powerful. That's don't kind of uh don't take my line of thinking down that avenue, but it is still incredibly impressive, if not for a combat sense, just in a general sense of what she can do and how her power is able to be utilized in so many different ways. Now, she can enchant explosions and beams of energy, and the atmosphere around her, she kind of calls it like atmospheric destruction or something along those lines, where we see that she's just casually blowing up mountains. So if you didn't think that the the small country to mid country to potentially higher levels of AP were, if they weren't crazy enough, the fact that she can also just do it casually to mountains further justifies that scaling of the more upper tiers of strength, which I reckon is really, really impressive. But her most powerful ability is her ability to bring down a meteorite. Now, like I said, I would classify this as at minimum a mid country level AP attack. It wouldn't make sense for it to be that much weaker than her Universe 1 or to be able to inflict damage lesser to Universe 1. If you want to say that it's at the same tier, then we would still just call it a low country level move. But I'm happy to classify it as mid country level attack. If you wanted to highball it, maybe we could say it is a large country AP attack. So really, really crazy stuff because in comparison, that's comparing to Acnologia. I did a video talking about Acnologia and about how what I think of his strength. I did the same with Zeref. I heavily suggest go check that out. Just click on my channel down below. They're in the last 5 videos that I've done. You won't miss them. And I classified Acnologia as, stronger than Zeref when it comes to like destruction and stuff like that. But I like at the highest ball, I kind of put him at low continent level, and Irene is not far behind him at all. That matchup would have been very interesting to really see. And it makes me want to maybe put Acnologia a little bit higher up than I initially did because of how strong we know Irene is. It might have been better to do Irene's video first. But comparing, we know that Acnologia is stronger than Irene because Irene knows she can't handle him and isn't even entirely positive if Zeref can handle him with Fairy Heart, implying that Zeref is stronger than her, meaning there's a couple of tiers of strength difference between Irene and Acnologia. The issue there is that it's unquantifiable when we talk about specific classes of strength, classes of speed and AP and stuff like that. But we do know that Acnologia is stronger than Irene. So I reckon that what Irene can do in this show puts her at a level of strength that is kind of, but fourth or fifth in the entire series, in the entire core series, not getting into the 100-year quest, where it's kind of like Acnologia, Zeref, Natsu, not necessarily in that order, but like the three heavy hitters, then Irene, and then August. I reckon Irene has a better showing than August. I'm probably going to do August next in terms of fairy tale. But Irene is definitely up there. Like, you could even, but no, I wouldn't put her above Natsu specifically because Natsu has dragon slaying magic. If it was just Natsu's power without the dragon slaying aspect to it, maybe I would even put her above Natsu. But she is an incredible powerhouse, and I don't think that her power can be slept on at all. It's like I can't gush enough about just how much I like this character and how much I kind of respect what was done with her, where she was never defeated in the end. She was never like taken the piss out of. Just came in. She was like authoritarian. She was strong. She was sarcastic. She was witty. She was beautiful, but also looked like a badass. She was kind of ruthless, but also secretly quite sincere and kind, especially what we see about her past and everything that happened there. I think she's just a great, great character. I wrote down the way I do these videos is they're all just off the cuff, but I write down kind of a list of kind of dot points that I really kind of want to go over. And the last thing I do really want to talk about is the fact that she can transfer her essence onto someone else. So not only can she create life from inanimate objects by putting personalities and consciousnesses onto them, she can then transfer her own conscious to someone else in there's a few characters that do things like this, but in a possession type of way where it's implied that she can just take over their entire being and live her life as them, where she even gets access to another person's magic while continuing to have her own magic. Now, she's already immortal because she has a dragon's why can I never pronounce this word? I got it right before. Physiology, but the fact that she can also kind of escape death by transferring her soul into someone else, very Orochimaru like, is really, really just if she was just going totally chaotic evil, there'd potentially be no stopping her, and it adds a level of survivability and kind of persistence that potentially Acnologia and Zeref don't have if she can kind of keep just transferring her consciousness over to other people. She's so strong that she makes Wendy incredibly powerful just by having her consciousness inside of her. So I do reckon that that is an ability as well that can't be slept on. It's really, really ruthless. It potentially gives her the means to gain access to a bunch of different magic as well, giving her kind of the arsenal of someone like Zeref if she could also take those abilities. But it's more headcanony and it's more fan fiction of exactly how much she could do with that. But guys, I've rattled on enough tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure being able to talk about Irene Belserion, the Scarlet Despair. I'm interested to see what you all think of her powers. Let me know down in the comments, and let me know down in the comments who you want to see next. If you've liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. But guys, have a good one.